We are deep in the COVID era of wrestling, and let me tell you something, guys. Your buddy Spaz Phoenix is really, really bored. So let's do some fantasy booking. Let's talk about it.
It's burning down, it's burning high. When ashes fall, the legends rise.
What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with a bit of fantasy booking, because as I said in the intro, I've been really bored and I've had a lot of time to sit around and think about stuff. And what have I been thinking about? What have I been tweeting about? What have I been talking about when it inflicts on my favorite brand, which is NXT? Who drives me nuts in WWE? Well, it's Sasha Banks and Bayley, isn't it? Now, I was thinking about coming up here and doing a video about why Sasha Banks and Bayley drive me nuts. I've spoken at length, both on my own, in topical videos with Guapo, and in topical videos with the great Jake DeMarco, about how I feel about Sasha Banks and how I feel she impacts this business outside the ring. Don't nearly have the same feeling about Bayley, other than the fact that she's just really, really lame, and we are on the cusp of those two women holding every women's belt on the main roster. Now, thankfully, NXT UK is shut down in the moment, and the NXT Women's Championship is in the good, capable hands of Io Shirai. So that's all well and good. But for main roster WWE, it is obnoxious that somebody so troublesome and somebody so lame have all the gold. Becky Lynch, off being a mama, congratulations to her. Charlotte Flair, who gets way more flack than she deserves, is off, I believe, getting surgery, taking care of some nagging issues. That's cool too. So the other two of the four horsewomen, the lesser half of the four horsewomen, I should say, are really carrying all the banners right now, and that's been driving me nuts for a long time. Anybody that follows me on social media, follows what I've said on YouTube, follows what I've said in collabs, knows that. I could come up here and talk some more about that, but I am reminded of an argument that is thrown in my face a lot. It was thrown in my face way, way, way back in the day, and I'll give the credit to Deluxe Man. I think he was the first one to throw this argument at me, but it's been thrown around Twitter, it's been thrown around social media, it's been thrown at me in other videos, I believe. But the basic argument is it's all fine and well and good to bitch about something you don't like, but what are you doing if you don't come up with something better? So if the worst thing happening in wrestling right now is Sasha Banks and Bayley, what is the best thing that could happen in women's wrestling right now in WWE? And that is, of course, a second Evolution pay-per-view. And when I say a second Evolution pay-per-view, I don't mean let's just throw another all-chick card together and pat ourselves on the back and call it the end of the day. No, you want to create a second Evolution pay-per-view that is worthy of the hype that the first one got and didn't quite deliver on. If we're honest, we didn't get that UK title that we thought we were going to get. The main event was the Bellas and Ronda Rousey, and there was some good stuff in there, but people felt compelled to say that it was great just because of the history that it made. The history that it made was great, but the pay-per-view itself lacked some of the punch, some of the pizzazz, some of the overall value that the hype around it dictated. So I wanted to talk about an Evolution 2 pay-per-view that, in my personal opinion, would be the first proper Evolution 2. That would be the best thing that main roster WWE could do for its women's division, compared to the worst thing going on in its women's division right now, which is Sasha Banks and Bayley, and how one could lead to the other. So I have to attack this on three fronts, because much like people complained about with Charlotte Flair, because it's popular to not like Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks and Bayley, by virtue of the fact that they have the Women's Tag Team Championships, are allowed to be on all three shows. So we need to tackle how we deconstruct Sasha Banks and Bayley on all three shows. Number one is Raw. Raw is the easiest one to tackle because we already have a match coming up at Extreme Rules this Sunday. Or not this Sunday, but a Sunday coming up soon. It is Sasha Banks versus Asuka, and it is for Asuka's Raw Women's Championship. And it may come to a surprise to some because of how I think of Sasha Banks, but my number one way, the way we start this whole thing off, is actually Sasha Banks defeating Asuka. Sasha Banks defeating Asuka, becoming the new Raw Women's Champion, and making it that these two have all four titles. It's the two-woman power trip. It is the female version of Austin and Triple H, except neither one of them brings anything like that to the table. Now, because of the heel shtick that they're doing right now, the best friend, besties, leaning on each other type of thing, obviously there would be a lot of bullshit involved in this victory. There would be a decent match. Sasha Banks is not a bad wrestler. So Asuka and Sasha Banks would have a great wrestling match. Now, Asuka's a million times better than she is. So a lot of cheating from Bayley, a lot of chicanery around the referee's back. But whatever the case may be, Sasha Banks defeats Asuka, becomes the Raw Women's Champion. And this is the main event of Extreme Rules, if I'm booking it as well. Should have said that. But as she poses on the rampway with her title, with her tag title in the other hand, sort of with Bayley beside her, the last thing you see is a returning Shayna Baszler appearing behind her, a la Keith Lee, you know, rising above the shoulder, and choking her out to end the show. Now, obviously, because it's Raw and because Raw is formulaic WWE television, the next night on Raw would be Shayna Baszler coming out to cut a promo on Sasha Banks on all the things that she has done. Now, this would be tricky because Shayna Baszler is never been the best on the mic, or at least on the main roster, they've never let her be the best on the mic. And this promo would have to cover a lot of ground. This promo would have to cover where she's been, because the reality of the fact is that WWE just hasn't had a use for her, which is really, really pathetic in my opinion. So they'd have to do that away. Either she's been injured, or if they want to play up the real world stuff, maybe she had a COVID scare. Maybe she got sick of being on the main roster and she wanted to train herself up and save up her spot and whatever. Then she'd have to transition into why she attacked Sasha Banks. She attacked Sasha Banks because it didn't make sense that Sasha Banks had a shot that she never got in the first place. She came in, she was impressive, she took out a bunch of people in the Elimination Chamber, but Sasha somehow got a title shot. Basically because she said, hey Asuka, I want one, which is true. Point out the fact that she's not even a Raw superstar. Point out the little bit of a loophole that she's tried to work her way through, that she's allowed to be on Raw to defend her tag team title. That does not mean she's a member of the Raw roster. That does not mean that she is allowed to go for that title. She shouldn't have had the shot, therefore she shouldn't have the title. And also, the last thing, and this would be the thing we'd really have to draw home, because Shayna Baszler is a competitor, she sees herself as the best, wants to beat the best, she would have to put across the idea that she wanted to win the Raw title, but she wanted to win it from Asuka, because that would mean something, because she has, you know, she doesn't have to like Asuka, but she has a sort of a begrudging respect for Asuka in the limited interactions that they've had. She doesn't want to beat Sasha Banks for the title, because beating Sasha Banks for the title won't mean anything. So she'd have to play it off a bit sarcastically, but, you know, don't worry about it. I'm not coming for your title, because winning it from you won't mean anything. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be lingering in the background of your fucking life. So it would be terrifying, and they'd have to sell it, and Sasha Banks and Bayley would have to do something that they normally don't do, which is actually sell the effectiveness of somebody else, and then Sasha Banks and Bayley would not be seen on weeks on Raw. And you'd have Michael Cole on commentary be like, hey, you know, the tag team championships are available for all brands. How come they're not here on Raw defending those titles? And the story, their absence would tell the story there. Now, where it's a little bit more fun is we're going to go to NXT now. And NXT, as you guys know that have been listening to me for a long time, I think NXT should be the home for those women's tag team championships. NXT successfully revived the cruise. I was about to say the 205 championship. That's not what it is. The cruiserweight championship from the 205 Live era, and I think they could do the same thing with the women's tag team championships, especially because the women's division is really, really strong on NXT. First of all, we got a little tiny mid-card story that we got to take care of, and that is coming up this week. I don't know when this video is going up, by the way, but I'm recording this on the 26th. I wrote this up about 2 days ago. I'm recording this on the 26th. So if what I'm saying right now no longer fits, or we get some new piece of information that contradicts this, please understand, A, I'm just having some fun and doing some fantasy booking, but B, I'm recording this on the 26th, so what I'm saying might be a little out of date. I think I'm going to release this next Friday, so some of it will definitely be out of date, but just go with me for a second. Now, at the NXT Presents Great American Bash, we've got Rhea Ripley taking on Aaliyah and Robert Stone, and the whole deal is that if Robert Stone and Aaliyah win, then Rhea Ripley has to join the Robert Stone brand, which is fun, and it's a cool little thing. We're gonna get some intergender wrestling. It's fine. Now, they have been trying to play up Aaliyah as a little bit more of a, like, she's still a loser, she's still really frustrated, that's why she's with Robert Stone brand, etc. But she has shown a vicious streak in her matches. Now, if Rhea Ripley gets really, really cocky and decides at the very last second that, you know, hey, you guys already have a handicap match, why don't we just make it a no DQ? And then, you know, they use some weapons or some cheap tactics or whatever, and somehow Robert Stone and Aaliyah beat Rhea Ripley. Now, those of you that know me know that I'm really conflicted with a decision like that because I think Rhea Ripley's a fucking star. But I also think the Robert Stone brand thing is hilarious, and Aaliyah's my hometown girl. So everybody wins in this scenario. So contractually, she is bound to the Robert Stone brand and to a partnership with Aaliyah. Now, Regal will come out and announce later on, totally separate from this match, that we are going to have a mini tournament to determine who will represent NXT in fighting for those NXT Women's Tag Team Championships at the next opportunity. It's leading to SummerSlam, but we won't know that it's SummerSlam just yet. Now, Io Shirai gathers all the women's tag teams of NXT together for a little pep talk, basically giving them the idea of, hey, last time Sasha Banks and Bayley were here, look what I did. I took the helm as your champion, representing this division, representing this brand, and I kicked them out of our NXT. You guys need to take that next step, get those titles from them, bring those titles to our NXT so that those intruders can't come back ever again. Now, on a side tangent, Candice LeRae is going to confront Io Shirai later on, based on that statement that it's her division, she's leading it, she's pepping everybody else up, and she's going to challenge her on that. She's going to say, just because you've got the belt over your shoulder right now doesn't mean you are the sole voice of the NXT women's division. They go off, they have their own type of issues, and then we get to this particular tournament. Now, you got Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah taking on Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox in the first round of this tournament. And you guys know me, I love Shotzi Blackheart and I like Tegan Nox. They are not winning this match. Rhea Ripley is going to drag Aaliyah to a victory in this match, not only because she overpowers everybody, but because the never-ending story between Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai brings Kai and Gonzalez to the ringside. In this match, they distract, they cost Shotzi and Tegan the shot. Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah move forward in the tournament. Now, Kai and Gonzalez, they go on and they defeat Catanzaro and Carter just by cheating, just by doing what they do, and also Raquel Gonzalez is a beast and just manhandles, or sorry, I should say women handles, both of them. So Kai and Gonzalez also move on to the final, and the final is Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah defeating Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, because the other four women, the other two teams that Kai and Gonzalez fucked over in the first round, are going to come back. They're going to get their revenge. There's going to be a pre-match beatdown on Gonzalez, who's the big threat, and Dakota Kai kind of gets left on her own. It's a little bit of a heelish move, but they're justified because both of them lost their spots in this tournament to Kai and Gonzalez because of their cheating means or their interference or whatever. They're justified in seeking out that revenge. The final result of all this, of course, is the oddball team. Robert Stone's oddball team of Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah are the new #1 contenders for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. And then we move on to Phase 3, which is SmackDown. SmackDown already sort of started this off the other week with all the women in the back talking about how they're all sick of Bayley being the SmackDown Women's Champion, but also they're sick of this tandem keeping that belt over her shoulder. And it's one of those rare occasions in wrestling where something is so bad, so negative, so detrimental that it brings the faces and the heels together, because Bayley as champion is worse than whatever the faces and heels are arguing about at the time. So they rally together, they try to sort of begrudgingly support each other. They talk about who should represent them. They make reference to what's just happened on NXT. It's like, hey, look, they're throwing the best of the best at these women. As singles competitors, we need to do the same thing. We need to figure out which one of us is going to take that belt off Bayley, because then we can fight over that belt amongst each other. So they talk about having each other's backs until somebody gets the belt off Bayley. As I say, very begrudging support between all the women, and it's more than just the 5 that were in that segment the other week. So they decide that they're going to have a tournament as well. They're going to have a tournament amongst themselves to see who's going to get the next shot at Bayley and try to save that championship from the problematic duo that is Sasha Banks and Bayley. But they can't even get the tournament off the ground because all the first round matches are interfered with by Sasha, by Bayley. They all come out as no disqualifications. Nobody can advance in the brackets because all the matches have no results. So, and this is where a GM would come in handy, but we don't have one right now. So we'll just say the powers that be make the announcement that there is going to be a SmackDown Women's Division Battle Royal, and the winner of that Battle Royal gets to go on and face Bayley at a later date. Now, the caveat is, because Sasha Banks and Bayley have been interfering in all these individual matches and they don't want a number one contender and they're keeping on with these actions that are going to lead to there being no number one contender, Sasha Banks and Bayley, and the language in this has to be pretty specific, while this Battle Royal is going on, Sasha Banks and Bayley are completely banned from contact with any active competitors in the Battle Royal, or Bayley will be stripped of her SmackDown title. So now, you have a Battle Royal on SmackDown consisting of Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Nikki Cross, Naomi, Tamina, and a returning Ember Moon. Sasha Banks and Bayley are on commentary, although they disappear about halfway through. Everybody fights. It's a pretty decent Battle Royal for a televised number one contendership Battle Royal. We know what they are. They're a big, fun pile of people match. And the last two people in the match, I know you guys are going to think, hey, I'm going to have the winner be Alexa Bliss, whatever, because I like Alexa Bliss, or it's going to be Mandy Rose or Sonya Deville because I like them, but it's not. The final two competitors are Nikki Cross and Ember Moon, and they're having a pretty decent fight. It's one of those Battle Royals that ends with two people that actually have a decent mini match between themselves. Nikki Cross, Ember Moon. Nikki Cross, who as a singles competitor has not been utilized very well whatsoever, and Ember Moon, who's been missing for ages. But as the thing rolls on, it becomes more and more obvious that Bayley doesn't want anything to do with the psychopath known as Nikki Cross. So as they go to the back, they come back out. They drag out Alexa Bliss, who is no longer an active competitor in the match, and they begin to beat her down on the rampway. Obviously, that distraction causes causes Nikki Cross to get tossed out of the ring. Ember Moon is your new number one contender. And then the promotional material starts to roll out for SummerSlam, and the news is dropped on Sasha Banks and Bayley that all of their belts must be defended at SummerSlam. Bayley will defend against the number one contender Ember Moon. They will defend their tag team championships against the number one contenders Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah, with Robert Stone in their corner. And Asuka will get her long-awaited rematch from Extreme Rules against Sasha Banks. And Shayna Baszler makes a point of mentioning that she doesn't have a match that night, but she will be watching with great interest from the back, which is good. Bayley versus Ember Moon is the first match out of the gate, and the SmackDown Women's Division, still bound together by their hatred of Sasha Banks and Bayley, surround the ring, and the idea being that they're going to surround the ring and keep Sasha Banks from getting involved. But you see Sasha Banks at the top of the rampway, and she's got her Raw Women's Championship over her shoulder, and yeah, the ringside is surrounded by people that are keeping her from getting involved in the match, but she doesn't really look that interested in getting involved in the match. She's just sort of at the top of the ramp, sort of petting her Raw championship, and they're sort of keeping her at bay. It's very, very obvious that she doesn't need to be kept at bay because she's got other things on her mind. Ember Moon hits the Eclipse on Bayley. Her return story becomes complete. She won the Battle Royal, and now she's the new SmackDown Women's Champ. Her victorious return to in-ring competition is completed as she becomes the new SmackDown Champion. Now, the rest of the women's division kind of dissipates and departs and leaves Sasha Banks and Bayley to their own devices, and Bayley, obviously distraught over losing her belt, looks at Sasha, who wasn't able to help her, but obviously didn't do much to face that either. So, tension builds. And then you see a really, really cocky Shayna Baszler in the back, looking at the monitor, maybe with a beer in her hand, laughing her ass off, and she just cuts a promo right into the camera, right to Bayley. Says, look, doesn't look like Sasha was really eager to help you out there. Do you think she'll even pull her weight in your tag team title match, or do you think she's worried about her match with Asuka later on? Planting the seeds of doubt, building on the tension that's already there. Becky and Sasha versus Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Bayley's already worn out from her first match. Sasha, once again, sort of has her belt sort of sitting on the apron on one side. She keeps looking at the belt, not really eager to tag in. Bayley gets destroyed by Rhea Ripley because Bayley's already had a match against a very, very game, brand new returned Ember Moon, and the Eclipse is a hell of a finisher as well. Rhea Ripley hits a devastating top rope riptide on Bayley for the win. And Sasha basically washes on, and Rhea Ripley, the oddball tag team, and this is what will drive Sasha Banks and Bayley even more nuts, the oddball tag team, the tag team whose one of the members doesn't even want to be there, gets to walk away with their belts, and Robert Stone walks behind the two women holding up the belts for them as they leave. And it becomes a little bit comical on that degree because Robert Stone is such a comical character. Rhea Ripley can't believe she's in the situation that she's in because she promised Robert Stone, yeah, basically as a promise, I will drag your pathetic little bitch over here to the tag team titles, but that's it. And then we go on from there. The night SummerSlam rolls on. Baszler comes up, and she's, had a couple more beers at this point. She's still pointing at the screen and says, wow, Sasha Banks didn't help you keep your title. She didn't even help you defend the titles that you guys carry together. Are you such a schlep? Are you such a sucker that you're still going to stand by her side and help her and try to help her keep her belt against Asuka tonight? Is that something you want to do, Bayley? So Asuka and Sasha is your main event for the Raw Women's Championship. Bayley does accompany Sasha to the ring. She's worn out now from 2 matches because it's WWE and they like to be really, really obvious. She'll be all Kinesio taped up, or maybe she'll have an arm wrapped up, or maybe they'll do some makeup on her. She'll have a black eye or something like that. She's worn out from 2 matches now. You can see the two of them distinctly walking at a distance from each other, but still sort of trying to maintain the united front. The big surprise is that Asuka comes out as the challenger and Baszler walks out right behind her. Everybody comes down. They're all surprised that Baszler is there. Baszler squares up to Bayley, who just looks like she doesn't want to be anywhere. Bayley has this sort of awakening, sort of like I need to worry about myself moment, and she's like, fuck this, I'm out. They need to have a little bit of a pause for Sasha to realize that Bayley has said, no, I'm done. I'm not sticking my neck out for you for a 3rd time in one night. And she leaves. Now, just to make sure she doesn't change her mind again, Baszler will follow her halfway up the ramp and choke her out, just because this is my fantasy booking and I would find that incredibly amusing. But so distraught by the leaving of her friend, the leaving of her partner, and most importantly, the leaving of her backup, Banks is a sitting duck for Asuka, who rightfully so takes back her Raw Women's Championship. Now, what have we done? We've lost all the belts. Asuka's the Raw champ again. Ember Moon is your SmackDown Women's champ, and an interesting and amusing story develops between Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah on NXT, as they are the new NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, which is all good. So what comes after a big SummerSlam? After a big SummerSlam, you have the Fallout. The Fallout is Sasha Banks and Bayley blow up at each other. Each one accuses the other one of bailing. Bayley points out the fact that she got ragdolled 2 matches in a row with no help from Sasha, and then was supposed to square up against Shayna Baszler. No, I had to protect myself. I was done for the night, and you lost to Asuka all on your own. Sasha will try to defend herself for not helping Bayley in the first 2 matches, and it'll be good. Asuka will accept Shayna Baszler's challenge because of the respect shown originally, where Baszler said, I don't want to win it from Sasha Banks because that doesn't mean anything. I want to compete for that title against Asuka because she's the best. So out of that mutual respect, Asuka will accept Baszler's challenge. Ember Moon will offer Nikki Cross a chance at that title that she never got, the chance that she was screwed over in the in the Battle Royal, where obviously Bayley and Sasha Banks used Alexa Bliss as leverage. So Ember Moon is gonna, because she's a babyface, she's gonna recognize that Nikki Cross A, doesn't get utilized very well ever, and B, got screwed out of her own title shot. So Ember Moon will offer Nikki a title shot. Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, Tegan Nox, and Shotzi Blackheart will just continue their never-ending feud on NXT. Catanzaro and Carter, who will be the odd ones out in that situation, will challenge Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah because they got screwed over in the tournament as well, and they need a fair shot, and Rhea Ripley's going to say to Aaliyah, yeah, we are going to be fighting champions, and you can fuck off. And finally, WWE announces Evolution 2. Based on everything we've done here, oh, and Candice and Io just keep arguing on NXT, because heel Candice is great, and Io Shirai is an amazing champion. So here we go. Here we are. Here is where it's all brought us. It's all brought us to Evolution 2. And, I don't know. I don't know where you would put this in the pay-per-view calendar. We could do it in a month. We could let these stories stew a little more. But I'll tell you how things go. In the first match, Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart finally get the clean babyface victory over Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, which works on 2 levels. They both overcome the absolute monster that is Raquel Gonzalez, and Tegan Nox finally sheds the shackle around her ankle that is the rivalry with Dakota Kai, which is good. At the end of the match, William Regal comes out and says, congratulations, not only was this a great match, not only has this been a great feud, but by winning it, you're now the #1 contenders to whoever wins later on tonight. Io Shirai will have an absolute banger with Candice LeRae. We've seen that match before. We know that match is really good. That match for a championship with the energy turned up to 11 and the pay-per-view spotlight would be absolutely fantastic. Io Shirai is going to win, though. Johnny Gargano is going to try and come in and help Candice LeRae. It's going to backfire, which is fine because that's what the heel Garganos do. It's going to be good. Rhea Ripley and Aaliyah defending against Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter is going to be, again, a little bit more on the comedy level because Rhea Ripley is a lot bigger than the tag team title division. She's going to start the match. As soon as the bell rings, she's going to turn to Robert Stone and said, hey, I said I would get Aaliyah the title. I never said I would help her keep the title. Robert, I quit. She's going to hit the riptide on her own partner, Aaliyah, leave her to the dogs. Carter and Catanzaro are going to be your new NXT Tag Team Championships, and that's when we're going to start the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship Open Challenge every Wednesday on NXT from here on in. You can fight for those titles. Anybody from any brand can fight for those titles, but you're going to come to the Black and Gold brand to do it. Nikki Cross is going to get a heartfelt victory in a babyface versus babyface match over the SmackDown Women's Championship. She's going to defeat Ember Moon. It's all going to be good. They're going to shake each other's hands at the end. There's going to be a big show of respect. But because she was beaten down during the Battle Royal, Alexa Bliss is going to hit that long-awaited heel turn on her best friend Nikki Cross, and that's going to send us on a whole new title feud for the next 6 months, which is going to be great. And in the main event, Shayna Baszler, who we've all been waiting to see succeed for a very, very long time, is going to have a no-rules 60-minute Iron Woman match, and she is going to get that belt off of Asuka. It's going to be Baszler raising that belt over her head to end the night. And I know you're all listening to this podcast or watching this video right now and you're saying, Spaz, we don't get it. This was supposed to show us how Sasha Banks and Bayley falling apart was going to get us to Evolution 2. They were them losing and winning and losing and winning was the catalyst to get us to Evolution 2. But what are Sasha Banks and Bayley doing at Evolution 2? They're having a 2-minute diva squash on the pre-show that nobody watches because nobody gives a fuck because they all suck. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.
Sunshine, come a freak,